Well, hey there. How are you today? Good. I'm so happy to hear it. Or, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Either way, we are here. It's a new day. I'm looking at you. You looking at me. We survived another day, even though sometimes I feel like it might be getting a little touchy, but we're here now. So you're going to be okay. So, about 8 months ago, I did a video on the 10 tips to a more peaceful home. This video right here. Oh, look at her little baby locks. Look at the baby. So at that time I had did those tips. However, over the past 8 months or so, there have been some things that have come up when I'm kind of monitoring the way my house flows, how we move amongst each other. I just like to kind of do like an objective overview of our home and try to figure out what could work better, what's not working. And I've noticed that there are some key things that I felt like were missing that I needed to implement in addition to some of the tips that I discussed 8 months ago. So I figured it would be best for me to do an updated video because I feel like these four things are actually far more crucial than a couple that I mentioned in the first video. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. So when we're discussing having a peaceful home and removing the chaos and all these different things, I think it's important to put like a definition or a meaning to something. So for example, when we're talking about a peaceful home, what is a peaceful home to me may not be peaceful to you or the next woman or the next woman. It's important to kind of sit down and iron out, okay, what does that peaceful home look like to me? How do I want my home to flow? How do I want it to be structured that would bring the home and my family peace? Because if you don't have that, it's kind of hard to create a strategy that works if you don't know exactly what it is that you and everyone are working towards. You need to know the peaceful objective as to what it is you're trying to do. For example, I actually wrote some of mine out so you guys can actually get a better example of what it is that I'm talking about. Let's take a look at this. So, for example, I don't want to have to raise my voice in my home for any reason. I don't want to be overstimulated because I feel as though there is too much going on. I want clean spaces. I don't want children who argue every 45 seconds, amongst other things. I want to be able to wake up to quiet, even when the children are awake, which for me was a really big one. And then I want us to all be a reading family and spend as much time together as we can. Because I have written these things down, it was better for me to say, it was easier for me then to say, okay, so how do I get these things? What do I need to put in place in order for us to be able to reach this particular goal? So know what peace means to you first and foremost, so that then you can act on that. So number two would be to start your day with you, or how you start your day really matters. I think it's one of the most important decisions you're going to make throughout your day. I've noticed that as a parent, when I wake up at the same time as my children, it is nothing but chaos. I feel like I'm rushed all day. I can't get my bearings. I can't really focus. I can't show up as well as I would have had I woke up before them and kind of had time to decompress and kind of get my mind right for the day ahead. So what I've started doing, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit of time. The reason why I know this works is because for maybe like a month, I had fell off and I was kind of waking up around the same time that they did. And I could clearly tell both in my mood and throughout the day how much of a difference that made to my day. Whereas this morning, for example, I woke up, I was able to, wash my face, get my earrings on, kind of get myself together, make myself look decent, plan out my day, pick out their clothes for the day, certain things I was able to do, just kind of walk around the house in peace and quiet to prepare myself to be needed as much as I'm going to be needed once they wake up, to prepare myself to show up if my boss needs me and my kids need me, or my mom needs me, or if anybody else needs me. I feel like I could better show up and be prepared for the phone calls and all the expectations that people have of me throughout my day when I started my day for myself. So if I wanted to wake up and I wanted to journal, pray, read, all these different things, that was for me. I was able to do that. And then by the time I went back in the room, turned on the light switch and said, hey, it's time to get up, I was good. We had a great morning this morning. And that's how pretty much every morning goes when I wake up before my children. And it sets a tone for them. They're calm, they're relaxed. There's an expectation of all of us. It flows a lot better when you wake up before your children do. Now, with that being said, that is going to require you, for the most part, to wake up earlier. And if you're like me and you're a night owl, it's going to require some sacrifice. You can't have it both ways, and you can't continue to burn both ends of the candle. you're going to have to pick one. So I've had to sacrifice staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the bed before midnight because I found that's my sweet spot. As long as I'm in the bed between 10 and 12, I can get up at 6 a.m. with no problem. It's after midnight that I'm having an issue. But if I'm getting up, going to bed early, I can get up early and then, things flow a little bit better. As a night owl, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle because we're not naturally morning people anyway. But I found that going to bed on time will help you get up earlier. But it's kind of one of those sacrifices that will reap the benefits all throughout your day. And then, of course, that's going to translate throughout your week, your month, your life in general, if you just make the small decisions towards having a more peaceful environment. So wake up, Buttercup. Number 3 would be to slow down. Baby, where are you going? Because you look crazy, ripping and running and coming and going. We are just all over the place. I feel like here in America, we are programmed to just go, 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 go. And as a result, stress levels are high, anxiety is high. Sometimes you have to stop and ask yourself, am I rushing because I'm really in a hurry and I'm behind? Or am I rushing because just by default? It's been numerous times when I've been rushing, moving through the house, trying to boom, boom, boom. And I had to stop dead in my tracks. One day I stopped in the kitchen. I said, why am I rushing? I don't even have nowhere to be. I'm just rushing because my body has been programmed to just to where my heart rate naturally is just faster. To where I have to slow down, talk myself down, and relax. And then I actually have a much better chance of getting far more done than I would have when I was rushing. What a lot of us don't realize is that living in a constant state of rush causes a lot of unnecessary wear, tear, and stress on the body. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but I found that I make a lot more mistakes when I'm trying to do things in a rush state. Rather, I take a deep breath and I move a bit more strategically in the things that I'm doing. And I'm thinking things through a lot more. I'm less likely to make so many mistakes. I feel like a lot of different times in my life when I have made certain mistakes, especially in home life and work life and whatnot, has been when I've psyched myself out and I'm stressed because I'm trying to do too much at one time. So consider slowing down. In addition to that, if we're being honest, a lot of the times we are running late and we're running behind because we do not plan better. If you actually took the time, because for the most part, we know what time we have to be places. If you plan better and you planned ahead and you were more organized, you wouldn't have to run late all the time. You got to be at work the same time every day. Them kids gotta be at school at the same time every day. That traffic gonna be there pretty much about the same time every day. So if you know that, you need to be a bit more responsible when it comes to how you're planning to where you're not always in a hurry. I I really look up to people who are always on time and they also never rush in addition to being on time. And that's because they, one, don't psych themselves out. They think things through and they also are able to take their time because they've accurately planned out their day and how much time it takes to do certain things. So I think with that, typically people who rush a lot are also people who are not very good at managing their time. And I think that's something that needs to be learned if you do, in fact, want to kind of slow down, take a beat, and not put so much unneeded stress on your body. So, number 4 would be to declutter and clean often. So, studies have shown that decluttering actually helps improve your focus, your mood, concentration, anxiety. It also helps you sleep and overall just helps to ease your mind a bit. It also makes you want to be home more often. I notice when I do actually declutter, I have a better chance of wanting to be home, wanting to be in the house because when stuff starts piling up and it gets to be too much, I can't function with cluttered kitchen counters. I need like the main thing. I need the juicer and the speaker and the paper towel holder on the counters. I don't like anything else on my counters. There's just too much clutter I can't focus. I can't do it. But I know that about myself. So I try to stay on top of making sure that I declutter things around the house. I am big on throw it away or donate it. If I don't need it and I don't see any type of use for it, it's not going to stay in this house because it's going to drive me bonkers if it does. So I get rid of things. I have no problem with that. And once I do, when my space is clear, my mind is clear. I would also say to teach your children how to declutter and how to keep their spaces clean because children can be little clutter bugs in their bedrooms, but I've been helping mine to say, hey, we don't need this. This is trash. You don't have to hold on to this. You can let it go to where their space is also clean. And then they're less frustrated when it's time to clean their room, because they don't just have stuff all over the place. Everything that's in their room for the most part needs to be there. That's something we're working on, because the amount of papers those children bring home from school, I almost went off. I'm sick of paper. I'm sick of paper. But anyway, yeah, certain things need to go. It doesn't need to stay. And I know for some people, this is a real struggle. You have some people like me who will throw something out in an instant. You have some people who will hold on to every little thing because one day, 25 years from now, you may possibly need it, but odds are it's not the case. You're going to struggle a little bit more with this one, and it may take you some time to declutter. But once you do, you will feel a lot better once you come into your space and it's nice, clean, organized, and tidy just the way you need it. You'll be able to think better, process better, all the things. So declutter. The next part of that would be to clean more. There is a very big difference between how you feel in a clean, tidy, organized home versus a dirty, unorganized mess. Consider creating a cleaning schedule. What I have started doing is every night I will do like an evening tidy. So everybody will kind of go around, we'll make sure the living room is straightened up, their bedrooms are straightened up, my room is straightened up, just getting stuff off the floor, putting things back where it goes. And then of course, I have different days throughout the week where I will do deep cleaning, or different days I'll do laundry, just that way. And this is something that my mom had helped me with, just so by the end of the week, because we've deep cleaned different rooms in the house, by Friday there isn't so much to do when it's time for me to do like a full clean, to do a prep for the Sabbath, which is Saturday. So that's a really good idea to have a good cleaning schedule. Also, you should not be doing all that cleaning on your own if you have children who are old enough to contribute. Children need chores. They need chores. In the evening, I'll have my oldest children, they help with the kitchen. So they know how to load the dishwasher, they know how to unload the dishwasher, they know how to wipe the counters down and whatnot. And then of course I will come behind them because they don't clean like mommy cleans, and I can clean up behind them. But it's nice to go in there and you can see that a lot was already done. So then you could just go in and do the little things that still needs to be done at night. So then by the time we wake up in the morning, the kitchen sink is empty. The dishwasher has already been ran and just needs to be emptied. Everything is clean and clear. And what that does for my mental when I wake up every morning in a clean house, there are quite literally no words. But that is what works well for us in our household. That way we are always able to keep a clean and tidy space. I'm not fussing. Nobody's frustrated because we're all contributing and staying on top of what it is that needs to be done. Now, this is going to take some consistency and enforcement on your behalf when it comes to children, because, you know, sometimes you give a child an inch, they're going to take a mile. You can't be lenient when it comes to certain things, because also you're trying to build up that discipline in them that they're going to take throughout their lives. So that's something you're going to want to enforce when it comes to them taking care of the home, because they also live here. Otherwise, it's not going to become something that they get into a habit of doing regularly. If you make them do it one day and they only have to do it one day this week, and then next week you may want them to do it twice, like, keep it consistent across the board when it comes to pulling children in to help and contribute around the home. But that will help you a lot when it comes to staying clean and staying decluttered, is if you're not the only person doing it. That's not something you should be doing by yourself if you have help. Number 5, and don't beat me up, social media can wait. If social media is getting in the way of you handling your responsibilities and the things that you need to do in order to move your family in a certain direction, if it is getting in the way of the peace that you have in your home because you're steady scrolling and then things are piling up, which is then causing you to be more stressed and more frustrated and more overwhelmed, which is then trickling down into other areas of your life, then maybe you need to let it go and maybe time for you to take a break. The fact of the matter is, everybody can't do both. Some people can pick up their phone for 10 minutes and scroll on social media and then put their phone down and still handle all the responsibilities and the tasks that they have for that day. Other people can pick up that phone and before they know it, it's been 2 hours of them scrolling on TikTok or being engaged in conversations that have absolutely no impact on their actual life. Meanwhile, the more important things have kind of fell to the wayside throughout the day, and then you start feeling like there isn't enough time in the day. Maybe there is enough time in a day, you're just giving it to the wrong things. You have to know what kind of person that you are and adjust in order to get the outcome that you want. I know with me, with a lot of things, I'm all or nothing. And I know at times because social media is so fun and it's so engaging and there's so many different conversations that you can get lost in your phone and neglect the world outside of your phone. So if you are one of those people, and you know if you're one of those people, if you know, you go check your the data on your phone or the information that showed you how much time you spend on certain apps, you can clearly see whether or not it's a problem when you look at your phone at the time you're spending on social media, and you look around your house and what's falling behind and what's not getting done and what needs are not being met. You'll know if it's you who needs to take a break. If you can't be on social media and handle business, maybe you need to delete your apps for a little while and get down to it, get things caught up, get a better system, and also build up some discipline to know when it's time to put your phone down, because social media is a very big distraction for a lot of us. So know when enough is enough, know when it's time to take a break, because you and your family will thank you for it. So number 6 would be to prioritize quiet time. Now, in the previous video, I mentioned how important it is to prioritize you as well as your children knowing when it's time to be quiet, specifically the children, to where they know when it's time to wind down, when it's time to relax, because you may have something that you need to get done, or it may just be a time where as a child you just kind of need to sit still and just be quiet. It happens. But what I didn't realize at the time is that even in prioritizing quiet time, I still struggled with sitting in silence. And even though they're being quiet, or even if I'm being quiet, I always needed to fill my silence with some sort of stimuli. So when it's too quiet, I'll put on music, I'll put on something on TV, a podcast, or I'll pick up my phone, or I'll read a book. I really struggle with complete silence. And I think the reason for that is a little deeper than we're going to discuss in this particular video, but I've noticed that it's taking me practice, because even in practicing silence and having quiet time in the home, I was still contributing to chaos in here, because I wasn't allowing myself complete silence to just sit, think, process, meditate, those kind of things. So I would say that even in quiet time, making sure that children understand, hey, now it's time to be quiet, because some kids don't know how to be quiet because they're not taught to be quiet. They're not told to be, it's like constant chaos all the time. And personally, I don't think that's healthy for anyone. I think that if you don't learn when is a good time to be quiet as a child, you probably won't know how to shut up as an adult. I think there might be a correlation there. I'm just saying. So, though it is important to prioritize quiet time, because I think that's a time when you can really, get a grasp on peace. For example, there are certain times where the littles and I, we will quite literally just sit around like in a circle kind of in the same room, and we'll just be quiet. And it takes practice, especially from my 5-year-old, because he wants to be on 10 all the time, all the time. But I think it's a really good practice for them to know that you don't always have to be doing something. I think as a society now, so many of us are overstimulated because there's so many different things, so many different distractions going on at one time, that some of us, like myself, can't even really sit in silence anymore. And I don't want that for them. So that's a practice that I'm putting in place now, that they understand it's okay to just sit and do absolutely nothing. And in doing so, I'm also learning how to do the same. I remember when I was trying to sit and just relax and just meditate and just clear my mind, I could not do it. And then I had to get up and start doing something else. But that's because I wasn't working that muscle per se. I wasn't learning how to just sit in silence and just relax, which is something that I'm working on. And not only does it help contribute to us having quiet time, but it's also helped me to have a quiet of the mind and kind of a quiet of the spirit, to be able to just sit in nothing. I think that's a really good time to connect with the Most High. That's a really good time to pray. That's a practice that more people need to put into practice if it's not something that they're good at. So I definitely wanted to add that to quiet time, because that is something that I have realized over the past several months. So number 7 would be to create a schedule. I have never been much of a schedule person, but I also have to admit that there's been a lot of times I've crashed and burned in several different ways because of not setting a schedule. Going into your day with a million things to do and absolutely no strategy and how to do it, no plan, it's not wise. And I cannot deny the benefits of when I sit down, I plan out my day, I plan out my week, I set my goals, how much easier it is on my mental, how much easier it is throughout my day, because I know exactly what to expect. I know exactly what I'm getting ready to do. I know what I need to execute, and I know the order in which I need to execute it in, and it has made a really big difference. So I have set hours when I work. I have set hours when I do YouTube. I have set hours when I work on my candle business. Shameless plug, you should check that out. I also have a set schedule for when my littles get home. We have a strategy for when they come in the door. They know exactly what they need to do. Then once they finish that, they know exactly what they need to do next. And then we also have a bit of a strategy and a schedule for dinner time, chores, and then bed. There is a I've set the expectation for everyone. I've put the strategy in place and I monitor them to make sure that they are keeping their end of what I expect from them. And it's so much easier when everybody knows exactly what to expect. It's hard to have chaos at that point because we all know what we're supposed to do, what needs to be done, and then what's coming next. There is no more guessing because I finally taken heed to the advice that I've gotten over the years to iron out a schedule because there's four of them and there's one of me, and I have to have order and I have to have structure, and that a lot of that comes with having a schedule and what we need to do and whatnot. So I highly recommend you schedule out your family's day, week, month. Now granted, things are going to come up and you're not always going to be able to stick to it by the letter, but it is so nice to have a guideline. So even if you do fall off a little bit, you know exactly where you need to get back on and keep going that way. So set a schedule. Tip 8, when it comes to wanting to have a more peaceful home, is to learn how to communicate. I want you to hear me clearly. There is not a person on this planet who can read your mind, and it is not fair of you to expect people to do so. If you want something, you need something done, learn how to communicate that properly without attitude, without, you know, you, you know the way that we can have at times when it comes to wanting things done, or you feel like somebody didn't do things the way that you wanted it, but you never actually expressed it. You just felt like what they're just supposed to know. Understand that not everybody sees things the way you do. People have different perspectives. What makes sense to you may not make sense to someone else, and you need to communicate that properly. This also goes for children. I feel like a lot of times we hold children to an expectation when they have not been here that long, to where they're just supposed to know things and they're just supposed to know how life works. And that's not reasonable. Sometimes we barely know how life works. You have to communicate exactly what it is that you expect, communicate the standard, communicate the consequence if it does not happen. Now I'm talking about children. Don't be giving no man no consequence. We're talking about children when I'm talking about consequences. They need to make it clear to where there's no room for confusion, there's no room to twist it. Say what it is. Communicate. So don't hold them to a standard you technically never verbally asked them to meet. And don't expect anyone to read your mind. That's not realistic, nor is it fair. Learn how to communicate with those that you love. Number 9 would be to choose your battles. There aren't too many things more miserable than having a home that doubles as a war zone. Every war does not need to be fought. You do not always have to suit up and go to battle over every minor inconvenience. You don't have to start an entire fight because that man put a sock next to the basket, or he forgot to or he forgot to put the toilet seat down. There are so many more bigger fish to fry than for us to fight and nitpick over the small things. Know what requires your attention, babe. Even when it comes to the children, I'll tell you, my children are fairly close in age. So sometimes it be Sparta in here. It be Sparta. The battles be being waged between the four of them. I do not get involved with all of them, primarily for my peace of mind, for one. And two, they also need to learn how to, as we're discussing, choose their battles and how to work through things on their own without me always getting emotionally involved and pulling myself into some of their conflicts. Sometimes silence is key. All the fussing and the nitpicking and starting wars in your home with the people that you love, it's not worth it. This also applies to your family in the house as well as out of the house, and this also applies to your spouse. Stop fighting battles that don't even belong to you, and stop making mountains out of molehills. You do not have to get involved in every family altercation and every family argument that does not involve you, even if you're being pulled into something. Every battle does not belong to you. And sometimes the people who be trying to pull you in these battles started the battles themselves, and now you're getting involved in conflicts you don't even need to be a part of. Learn how to choose battles and also how to mind your business sometimes. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. Know when to choose peace, when to leave things alone, and when to be quiet. A lot of us, as I've said before, don't know how to be quiet, especially when we call ourselves having a little attitude or because somebody left a couple crumbs on the counter. Specifically, your man left crumbs on the counter and I got attitude. It's sometimes it's easier to just get the crumbs. Oh my God, just get the crumbs. What? Don't start a fight and an argument over crumbs. And I know it's a few of y'all that done did. Just get the crumbs up. There are so many other things we got going on in this world that for us to be arguing, fussing, and fighting about some crumbs. Get the crumbs up, sis. It's okay. Also, learn how to have a disagreement without turning it into an argument. One, because it's unnecessary. And all of the arguing just brings more chaos into the home. And that's the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve, which is why we're here, right? Right. Learn how to disagree without poking and prodding and provoking. Learn how to have a conversation. You can disagree and it not be an argument. But unfortunately, for some people, that's going to take you some practice. So learn how to disagree. That is absolutely a part of choosing your battles. Number 10 would be to spend time together as a family. You will notice a really big difference in the overall mood and the energy of the home if you all are spending time together. When you're taking time out to actually talk and to share with each other, to talk about, different things going on within your day or different things you've been thinking about, and you're just sharing different experiences with one another, you will find that, especially when it comes to children or even spouses, people don't feel as neglected. They feel seen, they feel heard. It really makes a difference to the family when the love there is felt. Have movie nights, eat dinner together without cell phones, ask questions, and get to know each other. There are so many of us who grew up feeling as though we were not seen and we were not heard, and that can follow us throughout our adult lives. We have the opportunity to change that with our children. Don't just assume that you know them simply because they're yours. Our littles have different personalities, different dreams, different thought processes. Get to know them for who they are. And a lot of times that happens by talking to them. One thing that I remember with growing up is that we always ate dinner together as a family. We ate at that table. Every night we ate together. And that was the way we were able to talk, had different conversations. They would ask questions about what we got going on. We would come out with things that happened at school. We would also come clean about things because there was a certain level of trust there with all of us to where I knew I could go to my parents about something. I think that's so important. So please make time. Wow. Please make sure you are spending time with one another. I know it can be a little difficult when, the work and stresses of the world, but listen, that job is going to be there. Your boss is spending time with his family. Do not forget to make time for the people who are truly important, for the people who matter. Because what I don't want for us is to where one day we look back and be like, I really wish I would have poured more time into my children. I really wish I would have talked to my husband more often. I don't want us to have regrets when it comes to our family. So do the best you can to make sure you are keeping that bond tight. Number 11, and probably one of the biggest ones that's going to make a really big difference in your house. And I want you to listen to me. Don't get mad at me. You might, but you'll be all right. Get control of your house. You are the adult. Children need structure, order, and discipline. If you are allowing your children to be all over the place, walking across the ceiling, swinging from the chandeliers, and there is no expectation of behavior, that is your choice, but you cannot expect to allow that behavior and also have a peaceful and an orderly running home. You can't have both. It does not work that way. Respect and an expectation of behavior should be non-negotiable as an adult. Stop letting your children run you and be the parent. If you cannot think and have a moment of peace as a parent, that is absolutely an issue. However, it is an issue that can be solved. One thing I've told my children is that I'm going to have peace in my home and I'm not going to ask for it either. I'm going to have that. Growing up, we had times where we just had to sit down and relax. Like if you were told to sit down and sit still, my dad would be like, sit down, sit still, and don't move. You better bet I sat there, sat still, and I did not move because sometimes children just need to sit down. And I think I mentioned this earlier. Some of them don't know how to sit still because they are not taught to sit still and they can't know how to do something you are not teaching them how to do. It's okay for them to just sit down and relax because if you have calls you need to make or you have something you need to take care of or if you just need a minute, You should be able to say, hey, playtime is over. It's time to have a seat. And playtime is over and they go have a seat and nobody should move. There was a time when I had absolutely no order and my house was chaotic and I did not know how to get a grip of it. I was all over the place. And then my parents stepped in. Leave it to Gen X to get some kids in order. They helped me kind of build a system of how to get that respect, how to demand that respect and get things in place. And I kid you not, if I say something, it's getting done. I don't have issues with back talk. I don't have any issues with me telling you to do something and you don't do it. Now, granted, kids are going to be kids. At some point, are they going to do something they shouldn't do? Absolutely. At some point, are they going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But the blatant disrespect and disregard for you, your authority, and your household is unacceptable. And it's something that needs to be addressed. Children are going to do what you allow them to do. And if you allow them to do it for too long, it's going to be harder to pull the reins back and get them back under control once it's gotten out of hand. However, I still believe that it can be fixed, but it's something that you as a parent have to be very disciplined and very consistent with, because children are going to try you. They're going to try you to see what they can get away with, to see if you'll bend, to see if you're not going to uphold that same rule or that same standard this day. It has to be the same every single day if you want to see a change in behavior with your children. So work to nip that in the bud, get that baby off that ceiling fan, and watch how much better you feel. Number 12, which is kind of connected to the get order in your home because you're the adult, stop repeating yourself. A lot of the stress that we have when it comes to home life, being parents, and different things is feeling the need to constantly repeat ourselves. Maybe you don't have to repeat yourself. Rest assured, they heard you the first time you said it. Anything after that is a choice. What I have found is that there are more ways to get my point across than just repeating myself. I would be on the phone with my mom and I'd be fussing. She'd be like, I've heard you repeat yourself so many times in this phone call. And I didn't even realize it at the time that I had said something over and over again and they weren't hearing me. So I stopped repeating myself and I have a rule in place. I'm only going to say it one time, but what I've done to make sure I know for a fact they heard me is if I tell them a new rule, if I tell them something, I will have them repeat that back to me. So if you can repeat it back to me, that means that you heard me loud and clear. And I will also have you repeat back the consequence that I told you would receive if you did the thing I told you not to do. And I will also have them repeat back that consequence. So when the time comes, you can't say, well, I didn't know, or I don't want you to take my TV privileges or take whatever or do whatever. I don't want you to do that. Yes, you did. Because I let you know ahead of time, this is what you're not going to do. If you do it, this is what's going to happen. And then I had you repeat that to me, which tells me that you had a full understanding and you still chose to do the thing. Therefore, you're also choosing to do the consequence. And then I don't have to repeat myself. My youngest will ask me the same question over and over and over and over and over again. And I told him, you asked me one time. If you ask me again, it's automatically a no. It's automatically going to be a no. And I kid you not, guess who no longer repeats himself? He's caught himself once, and I did let it pass for the simple fact that he was getting used to it, but he was able to catch it and course correct and say, oh, sorry. And then he went and sat back down. But I've set that standard. I'm not going to keep repeating myself because I shouldn't have to. So I don't. Stop repeating yourself. You're causing yourself a lot of unnecessary stress that you don't have to. You have to stop talking and start showing. Now, different children value different things. They have different things they like. They have different things they enjoy. Therefore, the consequences will be different depending on the child. I don't repeat myself anymore. I just pull away consequences. So why just pull away things that they like. So they notice when they can't do certain things or certain things go missing that they've messed up, and then they need to think about what it is that they did. This is how they learn. This is how children learn. And I found that it's worked really well for me to where certain issues I no longer have. Granted, sometimes children need reminders, but it's not a repeating myself. The reminder is more so in the consequence. If they get too lax and they get a little too comfortable, we're going to bring this consequence back, and you're like, got it. Don't got to worry about me again. And I find that it works, but it's a lot easier than me saying the same thing 10 times and I'm getting frustrated and now I'm angry. I don't want to be angry. I don't like that. I don't like being angry very much. So stop repeating yourself. You don't have to do that. In addition to that, I'm just going to roll right into number 13, which is be consistent. And I believe I've said this multiple times throughout all of these different tips. If you are not consistent in these things, you cannot expect for anybody else to hop on the train with you. So when you set a new rule or a standard, you have to stick with it, even if you're tired or if you don't feel like it. Because one thing about children, if you rock, they're going to roll. If they see even the slightest bit of leniency or you're starting to kind of fall off, they're going to go back to doing the things that they wanted to do to begin with. So you're going to have to be consistent when it comes to all of these things, even the ones that are just for you. Even when it comes to getting up early and taking care of yourself, you still have to be consistent if you want to see results throughout your house, because a lot of times the change starts with you. And when you are consistent and you are changing and it's sticking, you can pretty much bet everybody else in the home is also going to follow suit, but it has to start with you being consistent. And last but not least, I save the best for last. And I cannot stress how important this is. Pray over your home. Do not underestimate the power of a praying woman, a praying mother, and a praying wife. We have so much, just as women, that we are up against spiritually within our own minds, in our homes, whether it's in the workplace. We have a lot going on. We have a lot that we face that requires prayer. In addition to that, what our children are up against personally, I feel like our children have it a lot worse than we did when we were children, because there's so many messages and ideologies and distractions and things being thrown at them amongst their peers when they're at school, on TV, in the games, in the books. There is a lot being thrown at our children that they are not spiritually or mentally and emotionally strong enough to fight on their own. And that's where prayer comes in. That also goes to your husband, making sure you are praying for him and the entire family as a whole, and everything that, we're going through, and making sure that we are sticking together and that we are not allowing certain principalities to drive us apart and to cause issues within our homes or to attach themselves to our children. It is so important that we are praying for our homes. I don't care if you got to put your hands on the walls, pray for your space, pray for your peace of mind, pray. There's so much that you can pray for, and you'll know more so what it is, but just do not forget in all things that when you're talking about wanting a peaceful home, that you are also helping with, that you are also praying for that peace in your home, and that you are also praying that you are not the cause of the chaos in the home. I think that's also something that needs to be mentioned, because sometimes we are the problem. And sometimes it may need to be revealed to us that we are the problem, because we don't always see how we're the problem, which is why prayer is so important. I wanted to leave you guys with that, because honestly, you can do all the 13 tips, but if you miss the 14th, you still may not get the results that you want, because you may not realize that some of the issues in your home are spiritual, and you're only looking at it through your carnal eyes. And I think that's something that needs to be considered. But that is going to be our last tip. I hope this set of tips is very helpful to you all. I hope you are able to implement them. Let me know what you thought. I'm genuinely interested to hear what you thought. Which tips were your favorite? Which ones are you already doing? Which ones do you plan on doing? Did I miss something that you guys do? I would love to hear about it. But thank you so much for joining me today at Mama's at Home, where you come for the truth and then you stick around for the recipes and the other fun stuff that I got going on around here. I will see you all next time, and don't forget to like and subscribe, as it truly helps the channel. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.